What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy Royale YouTube channel. Me and Christian are back for another This or That series, and we have some fun for this one. We're going Devy on this one, talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Drake Maye. And who would you rather draft based on ADP? Quarterback versus wide receiver always gets the Devy juices flowing. So we'll be going on over this after the intro. So hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's get into these guys. And talking about Drake Maye and Marvin Harrison Jr. here, and who would you rather have in Devy? And I think this is great for me and Christian because Drake was a guy that me and Christian were on. If you're an OG supporter of us for like a year and a half, we were kind of been on Drake as being that guy coming out of high school, even after his freshman didn't play. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. If you've been an OG supporter, we've talked about Marvin Harrison for actually 2 years, and I mentioned last year like, hey, he's a value. He's going to be a top 5 guy when we did this or that series when we were talking about him and I believe it was JSN. So when we're going over these guys and where they're at, so we're going to get into, considering where Devy's at and Devy rankings are at, like, what does that look like? In ADP right now, and I've done tons of mock drafts. When you look at this, Drake Maye's going as QB2 103. Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver 1, clear wide receiver 1. Let's talk about tier wide receiver 1. But some are flipping here. So I've seen Drake Maye jump ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. in terms of the ADP based on that quarterback and that wide receiver area. And I know we're going to talk about that there. But these guys are in their tier. And I think Caleb Williams is above that when we're kind of going over there. Now, college production, I'm going to let Christian kind of talk about Drake Maye and his college production. He's kind of the Drake Maye guy. He did a video on him, and we're going to dive into that. And then I'm going to get into Marvin Harrison Jr. So why don't we talk about Drake Maye a little bit with college, and then we'll jump into what you like from him.
Yeah, so Drake Maye obviously sat his freshman year behind Sam Howell, who was drafted to the NFL and is a starting quarterback, by the way, right now. But Drake Maye in his second year threw for over 4,000 yards, almost 40 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. But he also added a ton on the ground. He was definitely a dual threat type of guy. A lot of people use the term sneaky athletic, but Drake Maye definitely doesn't look like he should be that fast. And then he pulls an RPO down and you're like, oh yeah, he can move pretty well. And that kind of translated to the field. A lot of the things that he does well are going to be on his film this year, despite having kind of a new offensive coordinator there. Things are going to look a little bit different. I'll let you talk about Harrison's college production before we get into the film study.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you're right about that. It was so funny. I was doing the stats on his rushing stats, and I was like, damn, he had 698 yards. I don't remember that. And I was like, this kid, he moved a little bit. All right, I like that. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., just solid prospect, pretty good. 77 catches, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. I mean, he was probably a play away at getting knocked out of that, semifinal game to Ohio State win a national championship last year. That's how important he was to that offense. And he really stepped up. He really came out of that Rose Bowl and he had 3 touchdowns. Footwork, everything was immaculate there. But you saw that production bump. And realistically, he should have even a better year this next year. As long as quarterback play there with McCord or Brown, whoever it's going to be, is somewhat sustainable. Harrison's going to jump up and you're going to see these numbers probably improve. I know they have better weapons around him, but Harrison definitely could take another leap there. But we are going to get in the tail of the tape. So we're going to talk about these guys. We watch these prospects a lot. So if you haven't seen our channel before, we've been watching these guys 2 years, definitely all 22. We got our plugs, and we've been watching these guys from this last season as well. So what are we going to talk about with Drake?
Yeah, so Drake Maye does a ton of things well, clearly, as the production indicates, but 8.4% big time throw percentage per Pro Football Focus. That was a really high rate and a really good number for him.
Yeah.
He's got a strong arm. He's an accurate quarterback. He's a high IQ guy, so he's got really good football vision. In terms of manipulating defenders, he does a pretty good job of that as well. But there are some things that he definitely needs to work on. So I think mechanically, he is a mess right now. He gets by having that strong arm and that ability to kind of throw off-platform stuff, but his footwork is always out of whack. It's really just not very good. He doesn't throw with a ton of anticipation. I think that was kind of a product of that offense and what they were teaching him to do. there aren't too many college quarterbacks that throw with a ton of anticipation. You feel pretty comfortable projecting some growth in that area based on the high IQ stuff. And then pocket comfortability. He's definitely a guy that would rather pull the ball down and run than stand in the pocket and deliver through contact. He avoids hits very well. He's a big guy though. I mean, he
Yeah.
can probably take some hits. He stands at 6'4" and he's pretty tough to bring down. So, but overall, he's not a perfect prospect. I think you're going to see him get anointed as that here in the coming months as we lead up to the season. And I mean, there still should be some questions about Drake May's profile.
Are we worried about the Hal thing? Like, are we worried about that offense? Because I see the mechanics thing, like I saw with Hal. Like, there are some mechanics stuff going on, and that coaching staff has not shown. And I know he's getting a new offense coordinator. I understand that, but that coaching and that staff has not shown to be able to develop quarterbacks. And they were a little worried about May leaving. Like, we've talked about this plenty of times on the Devy Royale. Like, hey, May should go somewhere else. Maybe, possibly that would be a better spot for him. Are we worried about the Hal thing, or is that just an outlier? Hey, that's there, or is it a little bit in between?
So I think there's reason to be concerned, but I do think that May stayed based on the fact that he said, "I need a quarterback coach, and I need you guys to continuously work on my mechanics." There was that
Mhm.
rumor out there. I think that's probably got to be true. Drake May has his eyes set on the NFL. I think if he felt uncomfortable with his development, he probably would have left. I think the main thing, though, and the reason that Hal fell, it probably was a bit of the mechanics, but it's that RPO based offense. And I do
Yeah.
want to see if they can kind of develop some NFL concepts this year and see him kind of work in that instead of heavy RPO. Now they did less RPO with him than they did Hal, but I think you want to still see some growth in the offensive scheme.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. I think that's where hey, he's got to improve there. And I wish he just would have went to Alabama. I bet you Alabama fans wishes he would have went to Alabama as well. All right, let's jump over to Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, listen, strengths for him. I mean, he's got the size and he's got that frame. 6'4", he's just a monster of a guy. I think he has some of the best footwork in college football. When you look at him get off the line, he does that well. Like, no one's going to press him because of his size, but also because he can create separation off the line. And he does a good job against corners. Ball skills. This dude, he's got some of the best hands that like you're looking at in college football in terms of just going up and getting it, catch radius. You saw that one play on everybody's seen the one play on the sideline when he should have tore his ACL. Any man would have torn his ACL. I would have lost my leg, and this dude got up, caught it, and he was completely fine there. So from strength wise, there are not a ton of like weaknesses in his game. We're gonna get a kind of improvements that he can work on, but overall, he's a very complete profile. Like, and he improved. Like you saw him, I think, gosh, when I was looking at his 247 sports, I believe that he came in at 185, 190, and now, 15, 20 pounds heavier. And again, the thing that you have to look about with Ohio State wide receivers, they get draft capital. They are good fantasy assets and they're great wide receivers. Just overall, like, and Hartline's a big part of that in terms of what he's been able to do with these guys. If I'm going to say improvement areas, and I want to preface this, I don't want to get canceled out here. It's not that I'm saying that you can't do these things. It's just areas of like, hey, we'd love to see him get more yards after the catch in terms of in open space. Like, he's a deep ball guy. He's going to do that. He gets separation really well. But hey, can he change direction in the open field and in the middle of the field? Like, can he be able to do that? I think that's one area that you're going to love to see from him this year. I think he can, but can he be that elite status is what I'm looking at here. And most of these things are like good. Now let's see if they get to elite. And that's kind of what you're looking at with improvement areas. Zone versus man. My big thing with him is he does very good against man, but at times last year, especially when teams ran zone, they kind of confused Ohio State's offense a little bit. A little bit that was Stroud, a little bit was that kind of the receiving room. But how well can he learn how to kind of read defenses and sit, kind of play that way? Athletic testing too. I mean, that's something that a lot of people highlight. What is it going to be? And I think, there's no confirmed testing because of COVID and all those other things that was going on. So what is his athletic testing? What are we looking at? But again, we're talking about probably a top 5 pick. I'd be surprised if he wasn't 5-ish. Maybe he's going to go in that 5 to 10 range, but a team's going to love this guy. They've what he said, the Lamborghini just waiting to be unleashed at the pro day. So he's out there. Do you have anything on Marvin?
Yeah, he's my top receiver of all time right now, which is, I put grades on all these guys, and I've done some summer scouting on Marvin. And when I returned to the film, I was just blown away. I've
Yeah.
never watched a receiver quite like him. When you combine what I think is really good athlete, like he's a fluid mover out there, and you can see where like he's probably not going to test because it could only hurt him unless he knows he's going to go crazy. But when you combine that with the release and route running stuff and his ability, like he's just a big dude, man. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into it. Let's have some fun here. So you're on the clock. I've seen both these guys go in here. What way you leaning?
I'll take the highest graded receiver of all time in my yeah, I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. I think
Okay.
you've kind of shaped my thinking a little bit, Kevin, on quarterbacks and Devy. And I think when you look at these quarterbacks with a critical eye, without looking at them with a critical eye, it's easy to kind of fall for, oh my gosh, look at all this hype for this guy. Sam Howell is going in the first round of my Devy draft this year, and I need to take him. I did that once. I took him in the second round. I think with Maye, people are anointing him this sure thing, and I just am not quite there yet. I think Drake Maye is going to be a first round pick next year, but this, like, he would be first or second overall in this last class stuff. I'm not there. I prefer Bryce Young. I prefer CJ Stroud at this point. Now, if he improves in those key areas, sure, the quarterback still is more valuable than the wide receiver. But also, if you're getting a Julio Jones level wide receiver, I think you're feeling pretty good about that. So I still lean Marvin Harrison Jr. here.
Yeah, I'm not different on this one. We're not always going to disagree here. I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. Just for the fact that, like you talked about, quarterbacks in Devy are just, they're tough. And we've seen guys like Hal, Rattler, DJU, like you can name them all. Like we've gone through this process, Corral, like some of these other Jackson Dart. Like we've gone through this process before where we're like, hey, these can't miss guys. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, they were can't miss. Marvin Harrison Jr., all the stuff that we've heard about draft capital, scouts, all of that stuff is there. And that position, like you mentioned, is just, you're going to be able to bake into right now. I did a poll on social media, which, give or take, we never have the best takes out there, but they said they'd rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. 80-20 than Jalen Waddle in Dynasty. So when you're looking at that value that's going to be there, whereas like Drake Maye's probably, I have him as QB 17 or 18 in my combined rankings, where I have Marvin as a top 6 already. Like I just think if you're going for that play, it's there. Not to say that Drake's not good. Like Drake to me still, if Marvin's off the board, Drake's kind of the pick. So like because of Superflex. But to your thing about quarterbacks, right now there's only 3 quarterbacks I draft in Devy. Right now there's only 3. It's Maye, Caleb, and Drew Aller. And it's only because I think Drew Aller can maybe step up and be that guy. And even then, I'm a little worried about Drew Aller. So when you're looking at these guys, yeah, give me Marvin. Give me the best receiver graded in terms of what you've graded him at, but also just because of value. And you don't reach on, you take the sure thing. And to me, the most sure thing in Devy, which there's never all that, we've seen Boutte and these guys, is Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. That's good stuff. And I guess the one thing I wanted to add, I do also have Drake Maye at QB 18, and I have Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver 3 right now, behind Jefferson and Chase in combined rankings. So,
and if you want to see our combined rankings, and this is a good segue, come over, join us on the Patreon. We're over there, and we have our rankings. We have everything there for you guys to kind of look at and understand trade value, which is really hard to do in Devy and CFF formats and just in terms of college formats. So appreciate you guys. We'll check you guys in the next one.